aloha to you. And thank you so much for rolling with my craziness this morning.
Good morning, Suzy. I got my first cup of coffee. Aloha, Wemby. You know, the only thing that surprises me, Suzy, is that team hasn't won more games. You know, I tune over and watch him every now and then. I get more into the NBA and the playoffs, but he is a prize. And that game that you talked about, the 5-5-5-5-5-5 forever. Yeah, he was magnificent. He runs the floor with grace, and he's able to dribble down easily and make passes. So, you know, I think the future is great for the San Antonio Spurs, but obviously they have to get a better team around him and then go from there. But he's a delight to watch, I have to tell you that.
And Greg Popovich couldn't be a better coach for him as he molds him and grows him into the potential that he has in front of him. You have so much experience watching the NBA. Have we ever seen anything like him before, and what do you expect of him?
That's a very good question. My answer off the top of my head is no. We haven't. Obviously, I expect multiple championships, and Popovich will bring together a group, and then he'll turn it over to a younger coach going forward. The biggest change, Suzy, around the NBA since I was around it, that goes way back into the 80s, the era of the Celtics and the Lakers and the Celtics, et cetera, and then Michael Jordan appears for the running of the Bulls. The biggest difference is, and I think Michael Jordan probably started to bring it in, the individuals are so much better than they were during my era. The game depended on a ball move, much more physical than it is now. When you tried to drive the lane, et cetera, you were going to catch a couple of elbows. And then LeBron epitomizes the differences in the NBA, the all-around skill. One person, his fourth quarter against the Clippers is one of the most magnificent fourth quarters I've ever seen. And he's one of the old guys now, and he took charge of the game, and it was the greatest comeback that he's had in the fourth quarter. So what we have now, we have the greatest individuals who we've ever seen on a basketball floor, and along comes Wemby at his size with the ability to do what he will be the next generation. LeBron will pass the torch to Wemby, and we'll go from there.
You know, you look at the two of them, and you set up these two, the future and the past, and clearly LeBron is not the past, he's the present. But which is more impressive to you as you look at is it the numbers that LeBron plays night after night? Is it the actual output? Because he can't sustain this. We talk about this all the time. We talked about this at length yesterday. He can't play the minutes that he does, and yet he's in the top 5 of the NBA in current minutes played. And so I'm wondering if you could put that into perspective for me.
Well, Suzy, it's unreal what he does because of his age and his ability. I'll tell you, the first time I watched him this season was not that game the other night against the Clippers, but it was a championship game of the tournament, and they moved it to Las Vegas, and he took over, and I was very impressed because LeBron certainly doesn't need the money, but he knew the kids on the bench did, that they weren't that well paid, a couple $100,000 a piece, I think, that night in Las Vegas in their championship game. And I was very impressed with how hard he played as a team. Davis also obviously was able to be a huge factor in that game and is able to help LeBron when he's completely healthy. So I would say about LeBron, he's way ahead of Wemby because of what he has accomplished. Okay, we look at Wemby and we see great things and great size and the ability to do what he did the other night in that game. But he has not accomplished anywhere near what LeBron has. I mean, LeBron, a little bit different than Michael in that he moved his championship from city to city to city, whereas Wemby hasn't even been in the playoffs yet. So we don't want to, I would say to everybody, just slow the roll a little bit until he's able to lead the Spurs into a championship. I mean, LeBron clearly has that skill going, as did Michael. I mean, people forget that Michael took a year off to play minor league baseball before he came back, and then the Bulls went on and won more championships. And And Michael Jordan drove that team with the Bulls. I covered him on radio for CBS back in that day, and then ABC, and I was at courtside. And I'll never forget one championship game. They were coming down the floor. Steve Kerr had come off the bench, and he was in the backcourt alongside. Michael had the ball. And right in front of our table, Michael Jordan leaned over and said, "Shoot the ball, Stevie. Shoot the damn ball." And they went back down, and he went inside, and then Pippen whipped it outside, and Kerr nailed a big three-pointer with time running down in the fourth quarter. That was so, Jordan and LeBron. Jordan passed the torch to LeBron, and both won championships. With Wemby, we're still amazed at his size and his ability to do things, but he has not accomplished anything yet. So we just have to slow the roll a little bit and see, how durable is he going to be? I mean, both Michael and Jordan turned in monstrous minutes throughout their career. And the game is physical. It takes a toll. You're running up and down. I think, as I recall, during my era, we put a monitor on John Havlicek because he moved so much during a game. And I think, Suzy, it was 13 miles he ran in a Celtic game, which gives you an idea of some of the toll on some of these guys. And you think about the number of years that Jordan and certainly LeBron James now have done that. So I would just say let's just hold on. Let's see what the Spurs. First of all, the Spurs have to get a team around him. I mean that goes without saying. So the scouts and everybody, free agency and the draft, because they certainly are not there yet. I guess that's the only thing. The only thing that surprises me is that the Spurs haven't won more games with Wemby there, and I keep an eye on it because I'm always kind of interested in who's going to qualify for the playoffs and who those top six teams are. But when you look at the standings, and the Spurs have only won 12 games now. All right, now that's only two other teams have fewer, and that would be the lowly Detroit Pistons and Washington Wizards. So I think we just have to listen. I don't want to put Wemby in the Hall of Fame just yet. If that answers your question.
100%. Brent Musburger joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. Suzy Shuster in for Rich. I should ask you, what is your favorite Michael Jordan memory?
Well, the way that he off the floor. Okay, my favorite memory is off the floor, and it involves a Bulls practice in which Dennis Rodman showed up about 20 to 30 minutes late. It wasn't the finals, but it was early in a playoff run, and it wasn't my buddy Phil Jackson who went over to talk to Rodman when he came in late. It was Michael Jordan who went over, and Michael. I couldn't hear the conversation, but Michael was making it quite clear. You will be on time for the rest of the practices in the playoffs. It's the leadership that would be then, and then in North Carolina when we did, CBS had just taken it over, and it was Georgetown with Patrick Ewing against a loaded North Carolina team coached by Dean Smith, and it was Michael Jordan who took the payoff shot from the corner, nailed the big shot that sent the Tar Heels to a championship. Jordan was a man of the moment and was one of a kind, as is LeBron James. I've always wondered what it would have been like if LeBron James had gone, not directly to the NBA, but had gone to college, and I'm sure he would have won an NCAA championship someplace. So I think that the one thing about the NBA, unlike I think any other league, is one player can carry a franchise. And obviously, as the old story goes, you need the three key players out there, and that's true for the game. But you get that one great player, and you build around him, and you win championships. But I'm sure there are stories about LeBron James behind the scenes, too. I wasn't as close to him as I was to Michael. But Michael was the greatest leader of men that I've ever been around.
What didn't we know about Michael that you know?
Suzy, that's off the record. He was a world traveler. Let me just say that, okay? Great guy to be around, and loved every minute of him. Did not succeed as an owner. I guess what I knew about him early was how much he loved to gamble. Not obviously not on NBA and not on sports, but I knew guys. In fact, I knew guys who hustled him in golf. They would lie about their handicap and that. And Michael loved big money games. The bigger the price, the better Michael played. And maybe when he got out of the Charlotte deal, maybe what he wants is a piece of the future franchise in Las Vegas, because for sure there will be an NBA team in Las Vegas soon. No doubt about that.
No kidding. What did you think about how Vegas handled the Super Bowl?
I think every Super Bowl should be played in Las Vegas. Does that answer your question?
Brent.
It was incredible.
Suzy, there were a couple of people. I guess I was surprised about Joe Buck. Yeah, we have problems in Las Vegas from time to time, but certainly so does other major cities. And I knew that the league had planned long and hard for this. I will tell you, I went as a fan with my boys, and it was the easiest access to a Super Bowl that I've ever had. As I cleared through security and everything, I was amazed. They moved many of the entrance gates across the street from the stadium. There was no on-site parking, and I thought that was going to be a nightmare, but it turned out not to be such. And then I was as interested as to how the league handled it as I was the game itself, and how they moved the sets in and out at halftime and before the game. I walked away saying the league deserves an enormous amount of credit for how they set this up. The guys that went in there and saw how they could handle the facility. And they knew that most of the fans would not be local people living in Las Vegas, but most would be coming from the hotels over on the Strip. That allowed them some access. We got decent weather. It had rained earlier in the week, but it had cleared up on game day. And so we had thousands and thousands of people walk across Hacienda from the Las Vegas Strip to the game. Then they had asked for volunteers within the city to be ushers and to help with people and everything. I had some friends. They were paid $16 an hour, but gave them access to watch the Super Bowl. They didn't have to pay thousands of dollars for a ticket. And it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I thought the people who volunteered as ushers did it out. And I know Allegiant because I'm a season ticket holder. And I just thought it was handled extremely well. We were in a section predominantly Kansas City fans below us, but there were still 49er fans around, and it was a really well-behaved crowd. And the game, to be perfectly honest, was a dreadful first half, and then it took over. I think at the end we might have had 9 consecutive possessions of a score, either a field goal or a touchdown, which led to the great ending in overtime, and of course the great lingering controversy of should the 49ers have gone on defense. I must say that I defend Shanahan because his defenders had been on that field for a long field goal tying drive by the Chiefs, and if you wanted to rest them, and I guess my only criticism of Shanahan would have been when he had that third down just before the fourth down field goal in overtime. I think I would have said to the quarterback, we're going for it. We're going for 2 downs. We're going to run. You're not going to pass on third down. That pass play was blown up. I would have gone for the first down. If you take the ball first in overtime, I say to my offense, we're going in for a touchdown. If we cross that 50, it's 4 downs on every play. So let's go for that. That's my only second guess, Suzy. When he had the fourth and long, he had to kick the field goal, and of course, he had the Chiefs on 4th and 1 when they took the ball over. He could have won the Super Bowl if they had stopped him. And of course, Mahomes got loose for that great run, and so we go from there. So the game was great, and then the exit from the game was handled extremely well. Of course, I live on the west side of Las Vegas, so that's the easy way to get out of Allegiant. So, but I was very impressed with how I saw Rich, of course, over where all the media was at Mandalay, a huge layout over there. So there's no doubt in my mind, to answer your question, that eventually it will come back to Las Vegas again and again. I think the next big thing is about 4 years from now, the Final Four is coming into Allegiant Stadium. And once the leagues got past their hypocrisy regarding sports gambling, it was just a matter of time before they came there once the Raiders had moved in and built a beautiful stadium. And so the CBS people who I knew, they had a great experience televising the game. Jim Nantz, we talked the next week. I thanked him for some kind words, and he said it was a great experience for the crew and everything. They had great angles to shoot the game. Mike Arnold was the director, and so I think everything went very well. I think the one problem the league has to address is what to do the week before. The Pro Bowl is a disaster, and that's too bad. I used to cover it when it was over here in Hawaii, and we had great fun, and the football was a little bit better. So we'll see what the league does, but overall they've accomplished a whole lot, and I thought it was a great experience.
The great Brent Musburger joins us right now. You're alluding to Jim Nantz's kind words about the NFL Hall of Fame, and Dan Patrick has been very vocal about wondering why you're not in the NFL Hall of Fame, the Pete Rozelle Award. Why do you think, Brent? How is this possible?
You know, Susan, I never went into this business dreaming of Hall of Fames or things like that. Honestly, it was never a goal of mine. I just, I lived the dream. I was around it. I really appreciated what the NFL today did for me. In fact, the whole NFL, but I was more interested in everything, not just the NFL. I was interested in the NBA, college basketball, college football. It was just a dream for me. Obviously, I thank everybody, Dan Patrick, your husband Rich, and certainly Jim Nantz, and for all the kind were never expected. It surprised me when CBS came to me and said they wanted to do the pregame piece on the NFL today, and I asked me if I would cooperate. I said, absolutely, and all I want in return is 4 tickets for my sons and grandsons, and they said done. And so we had a great time, and so many people have come up to me and remarked about the show. But Phyllis George, Jane Kennedy, Irv Cross, Jimmy the Greek, they helped they made that show what it was today, and all the great people behind the scenes. I was never one to live in the past, so I'm like last night, before we went out to dinner here, I was watching the Vegas Golden Knights and the great comeback they had, and then the Boston Bruins put them away in the third period. So I'm very much into tomorrow. I'm fascinated. When does Rich run the 40? Has he run it yet, Susie? Your husband? When is that?
He runs the 40 in April. Don't put me on the spot and tell me, what's the date. I'll text you. But it's coming up, and it's his 20th year running it. He's raised $8 million for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. We're very, very proud of him here. So, he's gonna run it at the Rose Bowl. If you want to come over, we can send you a plane ticket.
He's going to run it at the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
All right. See, those are the things I'm interested in, what he's going to do with his time and where. Listen, Shohei Ohtani, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm not a fanboy, but I did buy an Ohtani Angel jersey, and I bet the over on the Angels just so I could watch him. And that's going to cost me some money because now I got to buy a Dodger jersey, and I'm just like the Japanese citizenry. I'm fascinated about this marriage that he announced. So I'm more in what's going to happen tomorrow, and can my Cubs get into the playoffs and things like that. The sports was extremely good to me. I wish I could have played, but I was never that good at anything. But I just love being around it, and I appreciate the kind words. But I certainly never got into anything saying I'm going to be a Hall of Fame. No, I don't think so. In fact, if you ask me about a Hall of Fame, I would say my friend Pete Rose should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame with a notation underneath it that says that he was suspended in what year it was for gambling on baseball. That's the biggest thought I have about any Hall of Fame.
You deserve no asterisk, no note. You deserve to be in the NFL Hall of Fame. You are so gracious, Brent. You're just my favorite guest to have on. And thank you so very much for making the time for me like you always do.
You know, I told Rich, Suzy, when you come in, I'm always available. I'm sorry I couldn't Zoom with you, but listen, I got my old beat-up pajamas on over here in Hawaii. But anyway, it's always great, Suzy. You tell Rich now, get ready for that 40, baby.
I will tell him to get limber. Brent, have the most wonderful day, and mahalo.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.